Man, I'm getting old if I'm talking about a trade that happened 20 years ago. I mean, you could see gray in my hair, but, you know, as we approach the end of February here in 2019, I was thinking about making a video on the Theoren Fleury trade that happened early at the end of February back in 1999. And as I look, as a Calgary Flames fan, I say that was definitely one of the saddest days to be a Flames fan, is when we traded Theoren Fleury away. Even more so than when we traded Jerome McGinley away. But let's revisit the trade of Theoren Fleury that happened during the 1998-1999 season on February 28th, 1999. So then you're thinking at the time, well, why, approaching his prime and all the numbers he's put up and being a big spark plug. I mean, he was only 5'6", but he was definitely a feisty player there. It's like, well, why the heck are you trading him in his prime there? Well, you got to remember the lockout that wiped out the 2004-2005 season. Actually, that lockout, I feel, was very necessary to bring in an economic system that makes it more fair for smaller market teams, to draft and develop and keep guys, that turn into stars. And Theoren Fleury happened to be one of the stars at the NHL at the time there, and I still say he's a Hall of Famer there, but unfortunately, we were in an era there where there was no salary cap, so teams were able to spend as much as they want on players, and unfortunately, smaller market teams like the Calgary Flames couldn't compete to sign, rising stars, and the market was dictating that way. So that was why, unfortunately, the Calgary Flames had to trade Theoren Fleury away 20 years ago. Now it would be a lot easier, to draft him and keep him away from teams like the Detroit Red Wings or the New York Rangers, who Toronto Maple Leafs have deep pockets, and at that time were able to spend as much money as they wanted. So that's definitely gave the small market teams a big disadvantage there. But anyway, if you still make these trades, you're also hoping to maybe try to recoup some value for it. And this is where I'm going to revisit this trade and say that despite making the very, very difficult decision in trading away Theoren Fleury, we definitely did not get full value on this trade here. And while I don't think it was the worst trade that the Calgary Flames have made in franchise history, I personally think the Doug Gilmour trade is the worst trade that the Calgary Flames have made in franchise history. And there is one piece in this trade that kind of redeemed it just a little, but definitely did not replace what Theoren Fleury provided to the Calgary Flames at the time when he was traded and one of the top stars in the league there. So, I bring up many tabs on my phone here. So, this is what happened on February 28th, 1999 here. And actually, it was not the trade deadline at that time. Actually, now the trade deadline actually moved up. I mean, I believe, it used to be like the last 10 games of the regular season, because I remember trade deadlines happening like the second, third week of March here. Then they moved it up, so I think it works out to be around the last 40 days of the NHL regular season. So at the time when this trade happened, we kind of knew it was inevitable, but the Calgary Flames made this trade 3 weeks ahead of the deadline, and there was, rising pressure of not being able to re-sign him, given the fact we were a small market Canadian team, and the fact that the Canadian dollar was around 63, 62 cents US at that time. And one of the reasons that this trade had to happen was they said that 80% of your income was in Canadian dollars, while 80% of your expenses is in American dollars. So that definitely made times a lot tougher there too for small market Canadian teams, when back then, when the Canadian dollar was at, the lower 60 cents, you needed $1.50 Canadian to get $1 American dollar. So and the players got paid in U.S. dollars too. So and to still say that this trade happened 3 weeks before the deadline, and the fact that actually the Flames, despite not having as good of teams at the time, still was a point or two away from the playoff spots. So you thought that maybe try to recruit him as long as you can, and this also signified the end of an era there, because during the 90s, after when the Flames won the Stanley Cup in 1989, slowly pieces from that team were either leaving for being traded out, and Theoren Fleury was definitely the last piece of that team that got traded out here. So he got traded to the Colorado Avalanche, and at that time the Colorado Avalanche were still in between their two cups there, because they won the Stanley Cup in 1996 and 2001 there, and Fleury got to play with guys like Sakic and Forsberg and Lynch, and he definitely was a complimentary piece for the Colorado Avalanche at that time, and they actually went to the conference championship that year, and eventually lost to the eventual Stanley Cup champions, the Dallas Stars here. And actually what wound up happening is that Theoren Fleury actually only stayed with Colorado for their playoff run, and then he signed with the New York Rangers afterwards. So you could say he was some of a rental there too, but we definitely did not get full value for Theoren Fleury. So enough trying to give the background story here, but the trade happened, as I said, February 28th, 1999. The Calgary Flames traded Theoren Fleury with Chris Dingman, the guy that we drafted in the first round in 1994, and actually Chris Dingman won the Cup with the Avalanche in 2001, and we graduated with the Lightning in 2004. All he was a big, check it forward there. So Fleury and Dingman went to the Colorado Avalanche. Calgary Flames got defenseman Wade Belak, forward Rene Corbeil, a 2000 second round pick, and I'll get to who we used that pick on, and future considerations. And at the time, the Colorado Avalanche, actually in 1998, drafted 4 players in the first round. They had 4 first round picks that year, and they part of the future considerations. Was not too sure the exact conditions was, but the Calgary Flames was able to pick one of those 4 players, and you'll find out who that one player was that got picked. But the players that we got back right away, Rene Corbeil was the one that was on the team right away there, and I'm not quite sure why we decided to get Rene Corbeil, because he wasn't really a guy that, wasn't going to replace offense that Theoren Fleury provided, and also at a cheaper price there, because he was a role player on the Colorado Avalanche, and when you have guys like Sakic, and I forgot to mention Claude Lemieux and Peter Forsberg on the team, he'll be pushed down in the lineup there. But Rene Corbeil never had a season where he scored more than 20 goals and 30 points at the time of the trade, and he never did afterwards. So at the time when he got traded here, he in 53 games with the Avalanche in the 98-99 season, he had 8 goals, 14 assists for 22 points and 58 penalty minutes. And then when he came to Calgary here, he played 20 games. He actually did not too bad, but he had 5 goals, 4 assists, 9 points for and 10 penalty minutes, and definitely wasn't Theoren Fleury numbers, but he provided something. But then eventually he was used as a checker, and then the next season he only played 48 games with the Calgary Flames because he got traded, and I'll break down the what happened to Rene Corbeil. As in 48 games in the 1999-2000 season, he only had 4 goals, 10 assists, and 14 points, and 60 penalty minutes. So I'm not quite sure why we decided to get Rene Corbeil when trading away. At the time when Fleury got traded, he just surpassed MacInnis for being the all-time leading scorer, and they just barely had enough time to give him a silver stick and and honor him, and then they shipped him out the door to the free agency. So that was Rene Corbeil. And actually on March 14th, 2000 at the trade deadline then. Excuse me, I'm still bad on a cough and cold here. Rene Corbeil actually was traded with Tyler Moss to the Pittsburgh Penguins for defenseman Radorenka, and he was just a plugger. So definitely did not get full value out of Rene Corbeil. So Rene Corbeil definitely did not replace the offense that Theoren Fleury provided. So the next piece that the Calgary Flames got was defenseman Wade Belak. And he, at the time, was up and down between junior and the NHL there. He was just a stay-at-home bottom pair defenseman that had a little grit to his game. That's all he had. And he also initially he started the team at the time. The Flames had the farm team with the St. John Flames. So he played 12 games with the St. John Flames before he played for the Calgary Flames. So in the 98-99 season, he played 9 games, had just had 1 assist and 23 penalty minutes. And then the 99-2000 season, he only played 40 games with the Flames. He only got 2 assists and 122 penalty minutes. And then the 2000-2001 season, he played 23 games, no points, and 29 penalty minutes, and eventually he was put on waivers and he went to the Toronto Maple Leafs. So he played with the Toronto Maple Leafs, and the Nashville Predators is just basically a tough guy on defense. And then actually, fortunately, in 2011, he committed suicide there. That's definitely been what happened at the time when you had a lot of enforcers and tough guys, as you call it, suffer through depression and that. And at that time, that's when we still had some tough guys and fighters. And Wade Belak, that's all he was. He was just a bottom pair defenseman who dropped the gloves there. So definitely, Wade Belak definitely did not replace Theoren Fleury. So let's get to the other pieces of the trade here. So the second round pick that we got for the 2000, the Calgary Flames drafted Jared Stoll. He was definitely had a great scoring career with the Kootenay Ice, and he was a part of the team that won the Memorial Cup in 2002 there. But one of the provisions with a player that you draft in the that you have 2 years to sign him to a contract, or you lose his rights. And unfortunately, apparently there was a reported trade that Calgary wasn't able to come to an agreement with Jared Stoll with the Toronto Maple Leafs, but that trade did not get registered in time there, so he re-entered the 2002 draft. He was drafted 46th overall in 2000, and then he was drafted around the mid-30s in 2002 by the Edmonton Oilers. So that draft pick definitely did not pan out, and unfortunately, he went to the Edmonton Oilers there. But in some roundabout way, maybe the sports gods sort of paid us back, not directly with this trade here, but in 2000, the Edmonton Oilers drafted forward Matthew Lombardi in the 200s there, and the Edmonton Oilers did not sign him to a deal, so he re-entered the 2002 draft, and in the third round in that draft, the Calgary Flames drafted Matthew Lombardi there. So maybe in some way the sports gods paid us back that way, and we had a good couple seasons out of Matthew Lombardi, but this was not part of the Theoren Fleury trade. So future considerations here. Actually, this was the one piece that actually sort of made this trade not totally a disaster, but did not replace what Theoren Fleury provided. But one of the players that the Colorado Avalanche drafted with their 4 first-round picks that they had in the 1998 draft was Robin Regehr. So Robin Regehr definitely had a nice long career in the NHL. He actually is second on the team. He played almost over 820 games with the Calgary Flames, which is second in franchise history, only behind Jerome McGinley here. And he was definitely one of the top defensemen there. So Robin Regehr was the last piece of the Theoren Fleury trade there, and he played from 2000 to 2011 before we shipped him off to Buffalo to unload some salary and go in a different direction and get younger there. And so the last piece of the trade was Rob McGuire there. And actually, interesting side note here is that Robin McGuire first made his debut with the Calgary Flames during the 1999-2000 season there. He was drafted for the Bill Masterton Trophy for showing perseverance and dedication to hockey there because, remarkably, Robin McGuire, 4 months earlier before the start of the hockey season there, he actually was in a car accident where he broke both of his legs. So it looked like his hockey career might have not even started. So imagine if he didn't get to play at all there. I mean, this would have really, really made this a really bad trade. But essentially all I'm going to say is that we traded away Chris Dingman and Theoren Fleury for Robin McGuire. I mean, Robin McGuire definitely was a great defenseman for the Calgary Flames for a decade there. It was definitely a huge part in the 2004 playoff run there, but we definitely did not get full value there for Theoren Fleury, and it just sucked that the kind of player he was, what he was like in the community, and how he played a complete game as a small forward there. And I mean, that was definitely during the dead puck era, they call it, when teams were playing the trap, and there were a lot more clutching and grabbing there. I mean, it would definitely be nice to see if you can reincarnate Theoren Fleury, put him in the NHL today. He would definitely thrive. He would definitely be. I mean, he was a small power forward, and definitely he played with a much bigger heart. And I mean, you could also spin this trade the other way, that Colorado only rented Theoren Fleury there, and then he did sign with the New York Rangers for big money there, over $7 million a year for 3 seasons there, and then that's when things started definitely declining there, and also we know more about what happened in his life there, and I mean, it definitely applaud what Theoren Fleury had to endure and be able to fight some demons, and now is an advocate about child sexual abuse and mental health and that. So he's definitely turned that into a positive, and it's definitely time to forgive what Theoren Fleury did, and I gotta say, why isn't this guy in the Hall of Fame? And I personally think his number 14 should be retired to the rafters there, but he's definitely meant a lot for the Calgary Flames there, and it was unfortunate that we had to trade him away due to economic reasons at the time here. I'm looking at this Wikipedia page here, and there's a quote here I want to mention, because the other thing I also remember, and I can't find it online here, but I remember the day when he got traded here, Theoren Fleury was crying about how much he was going to miss being here in Calgary, and this is a quote it says right here about when he got traded from the Calgary Flames here on that day. I'm just getting down here. It said, "A piece of my heart left today, but the biggest part is here in Calgary and always will be." And it says, an emotional Theoren Fleury discusses the trade that ended his 11-year career with the Calgary Flames, and eventually he got to try out with the Calgary Flames after going through what he gone through in 2009 there, and I still think he probably should have made the team and scored that big shootout winner, and at least that played in a firebook. But he's definitely been great at his career after hockey here, and after he got reinstated in the NHL to try out there. But that's just my story about the Theoren Fleury trade, and looking at it 20 years later. And I mean, the other thing I also remember that day is that I had a big bowling tournament that day, and I saw in the background there was a TV on, and I saw a Flames logo and a Colorado Avalanche logo on there, and it said trade, and then I thought I saw Theoren Fleury's name on that screen, and I was like, ooh. And I bowled great that day, and our team moved from the zones to provincials there, but I was talking to my dad more about the trade than how great I bowled that day, because it was definitely a huge day in Calgary sports history, and I'm gonna say, as a Flames fan, it was definitely one of the saddest days to go through. And I mean, you can maybe say it was just as sad as Edmonton gone through when Wayne Gretzky got traded there, and there were definitely a lot of stories behind the scenes on why that happened, but I think it was just simple economics why the Flames traded Theoren Fleury. So anyway, what is your take on this trade? We definitely did not get full value on it. I'd say it wasn't the worst trade of all time. I still personally think the Doug Gilmour trade was the worst one that the Flames made, and it's definitely in the top 5 considering what we got in return for it. But I think we tried to do the best we can, and some assets just didn't work out here. So anyway, if you enjoy everything I do on my YouTube channel, just make sure you hit like, subscribe, and feel free to share any comments about Theoren Fleury and any memories you have, but with this trade, and what did you thought about it, and also what do you think about other trades at the time, that if you heard any rumors about, well, who else we could have traded away for and got better value for. So anyway, I'll see you in the next video.